Hello everybody, welcome back to Screen Stars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2020 crime thriller Adverse, a film that is written and directed by Brian A. Metcalf, and it stars Thomas Ian Nicholas, Mickey Rourke, Penelope Ann Miller, Lou Diamond Phillips, Sean Astin and Matt Ryan. Pretty impressive cast, I think you will agree. Now this film focuses on Thomas Ian Nicholas's character Ethan, who is a former low-level criminal who, after the death of his mother, is given the responsibility of raising his teenage sister, who is gone way off the rails. She's into drugs, all this kind of stuff. He tries his best to help her. She gets involved with the local gangster run by Mickey Rourke. He's like the local gangster that runs these drugs and things like that, and like protection rackets, and he's a money lender, and basically he loses his sister and he has to take out his revenge on those responsible for her demise. Right, this film, I'll be honest, initially I wasn't very impressed with this film. When I first started watching it, it seemed odd. It was odd. I had this niggling thing when I was watching it. Thomas Ian Nicholas, that name might not mean a thing, the lead character here, but I recognised him and I couldn't just place who it was, so I looked up on IMDb who he was, and he's from the American Pie franchise. He played Kevin. If you remember Kevin in the American Pie films, you know, he's quite a small, kind of nerdy guy. And I just thought, how am I supposed to buy this guy as like this pretty tough lead in this film? No nonsense lead. And I struggled with that initially, I'm not going to lie. I really struggled with it. And then I kind of relaxed a little bit, and his performance won me over. It won me over is what I'm trying to say here. It really quite impressed me, his performance. To think that physically he didn't look the part. He really made it work from my perspective. So that was one thing. Mickey Rourke as well. Say what you want about Mickey Rourke these days. I mean, he's capable. We've seen it over the years of putting in incredible performances. And while, you know, this performance is probably not going to be high on his list of achievements in regards to acting and things, I thought, you know, he took the role seriously. He gave a good performance, and there was one scene in particular where he sat at a table with Ethan, Thomas Ian Nicholas's character, and they have this real conversation, it feels like, you know, where Ethan's asking Mickey Rourke's character Caden about himself, who's clearly is ill as well. He's got cancer. How he got into doing what he's doing, and they have this really real conversation, and it really elevated the film. And you could see, you know, it was great performance by Mickey Rourke at that point. Other points in the film, it felt like a little bit he was phoning in the performance, but again, we get Penelope Ann Miller, who pops up, who plays Ethan's mother. She's in it fairly briefly, but it's always nice to see Penelope Ann Miller in a film. Lou Diamond Phillips, remember him? He makes an appearance as a psychiatrist, I think it is. And Sean Astin as well makes an appearance, who's like Ethan's boss. He's like an Uber driver at the start of the film. So there's all these faces that pop up in this film, all help prop it up and elevate it to some degree. But I like the core of this story of this guy who feels essentially he's failing his sister when she is alive, and then when, you know, she dies, he feels like he has failed her, and he's deeply feeling guilt very deeply, and he feels like he's got to do something to those responsible for her death, and he kind of worms his way into Mickey Rourke's organisation and takes him out from the inside almost. I like that, and it felt believable, you know what I mean? The action scenes were quite brutal when we got them, even though you could argue some of the effects were a little bit, you know, some of the blood effects, and he goes around bludgeoning people with, you know, like a crowbar, is it? Or a tied iron? I think it's a tied iron. And some of those effects, even though they felt very impactful, some of the effects felt a bit dodgy in regards to the blood and things like that. And it felt almost like they were going for the You Were Never Really Here, the Joaquin Phoenix film from a couple of years ago that I thought was very, very impressive. I think he uses a hammer in that film. But yeah, it worked for me, this film. I bought the drama side of it. I bought the relationship side of it. Some of the plot lines felt a little bit forced. He's got a neighbour who he's started to build this relationship with. Chloe, I think she's called. And it turns out, right near the end that she also owes money to Mickey Rourke's character, which just felt a bit too convenient for me. We also get Matt Ryan, is it, in the film? If that name sounds familiar, he played Constantine in the TV show, and he also voices Constantine in many of the DC animated films. He was good in the film. He plays like Mickey Rourke's right-hand man in the film. So there's things in this film I thought worked. I like the story. I like these, revenge tales. It's handled pretty well. Some of the shots are nice. Some of the night shots are filmed quite nice. There are occasions when it feels cheap and low budget, and it's hard to really pinpoint where. Some of the sound design is not 100% sometimes, and some of the scenes feel fairly bare-boned as well. And some of the rooms they're shot in and things like that. Like when they're in a cafe talking, there's just them in there and that sort of thing. But I think I've looked at some of the reviews on IMDb for this, and I think they're grossly underrating this film. I don't think they've really took the time to try and understand it, maybe, and I'm not saying it's really deep or anything, but I thought it was pretty nicely put together. And personally, I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10. I thought it was a pretty good film. I was entertained throughout. I wasn't convinced early on, but performances brought me round. I bought the violence in it. I bought the the need for revenge in it and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a pretty nice, tidy film. It's not going to win any awards, anything like that, but I enjoyed my time watching it, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, 7 out of 10 for me for Adverse. So I hope you liked the review. I hope you found it useful. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you next time for more reviews on Screen Stars.